Hello, hello, and welcome, beautiful souls. I hope you are taking care of yourself tonight, and I hope that you can hear me well. Tonight, we are going to talk about some strategies to heal your inner child that you can start now, right? And it is important to know that if you're joining for the first time, welcome. This is a live stream that we have every week on Sundays, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And this is part of our Self Worth Hub membership. It was exclusively for members, but we decided collectively that we wanted to open up a space for everyone, anyone who is looking to heal their inner child and heal from the impact of growing up with dysfunctional family dynamics. So if you are just stopping by, don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss any future calls. And if you are a subscriber, welcome back. It's wonderful to have you. Please share in the comments where you are joining from. I know it's a Sunday night, and sometimes it can be hard to um, take time out of your day. So I do not take it for granted. That being said, let me know where you are joining from. I would love to say hello. If you are a Self Worth Hub member, welcome back, lovely. Remember to track your progress and your live attendance for a chance to win our monthly gift card. So don't forget to say hello. Tell us where you are joining from. So tonight, we are diving into healing that part of ourselves that it is often neglected when we grew up with our emotional needs unmet. When we grow up in chaos, whether because we have emotionally immature parents for circumstances that are out of our hands, we can grow up with emotional neglect, maybe because of practical reasons. We grew up with that part of us, our inner child, feeling like an emotional orphan. And that is why I am grateful that you are here, because if you resonate with this, I would like to offer you some practical strategies that we can utilize starting today, tonight, wherever you're joining from. And it is based on insights that work, and they're not complicated. This will not be a lecture, so I'm hoping that you feel free to share in the comments your thoughts, your reflections. If anything resonates or if you have any questions, I would love to see them, because at the end of the day, I'm here for you. And let's just do this as we go. And to start, I would like to talk about understanding the inner child, because before we dive into the how, let's talk about what the inner child really is. And the concept of the inner child isn't just a poetic metaphor. We I know that we come across that term often here on YouTube, everywhere on social media, on Instagram, healing the inner child, the inner child. And it is also part of a modality within psychotherapy, psychology, based on the parts in internal family systems psychotherapy. It is also a part of us that we work on. If you are familiar with the work of adult children of dysfunctional families and in 12-step programs, which I have a lot of respect for, the inner child, the inner teenager, the loving inner parent are parts of who we have, of who we are, right? That may be triggered or may come up as we experience different situations, to put it in simple terms. So, specifically, I mean, this term has been coined by multiple, fellow psychotherapists and psychologists. I'll focus on the work on of psychologist John Bowlby, which is the inventor of attachment style. Um, and let me silence my phone. That's what happens when we go live. And basically, when a child has attachment wounds, if there is a disruption between the dynamics of, the mother, child, its parents, its caretakers, this can trigger their attachment and the way that we can relate in adulthood. For instance, if you have an avoidant parent, you may be very either susceptible to becoming an avoidant yourself or being anxiously attached if you did not receive the proper care or if you did not feel the attunement with your parent. So you may be triggered by something that is seemingly small as adults. You may feel abandoned, basically, if you don't receive a text on time. And this can shape our emotional and relational patterns um, for the rest of our lives. But this is actually, you're not doomed, basically. If you now feel that you have an anxious attachment, it doesn't mean that forever you will be anxiously attached. It's not a condition. It just simply means that that is an experience that you had growing up. And there are ways that we can begin to heal those attachment wounds. And relationally, we can begin to build trust, to have chosen family. And the inner child actually holds both the joy, wonder, and innocence of our younger self, as well as the pain of wounds, of unmet needs experienced at a younger age. So it is important to recognize that this can be very dynamic. It's not something that if you experienced unmet emotional needs, and I come from a place of experience, not just professionally, but personally, that if you can relate to growing up, let's say, parentified, as I did, and you put other people's needs above your own, if you grew up as a mediator, as a problem solver and fixer, very likely you may feel like an emotional orphan or highly misunderstood or hyper independent. And this can trigger a wounded inner child because you are basically neglecting who you are, those parts of yourself, or you may even dissociate from those parts of yourself, those needs, in order to survive. It is a coping mechanism. So think of a time when you were deeply hurt as a child. If it feels safe, I would invite you to reflect on this. And maybe you were scolded for expressing your feelings, ignored when you needed comfort. Oh, you're too much. You're too sensitive. Stop crying. Or I'll give you something to cry about. And if you were constantly told that or told to toughen up, instead of being nurtured, then those moments, they don't simply go away. They don't vanish. They get imprinted in your memory and in your body, right? The famous book, The Body Keeps the Score. So somatically, you start to feel this and internalize, especially because our caretakers are basically our first love and attachment. So they imprint themselves in our nervous system, influencing how we react, how we act in relationships, how we trust, and how we feel safe or unsafe in the world today as an adult. And let me pause to see if there are any comments, any of you who are joining. Where are you joining from? Don't be shy. I would love to hear from you. Let's see. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the comments, right? So let's do a quick reflection. If your inner child could speak to you right now, what would they say? Again, if your inner child could speak with you right now or to you right now, what would they say? Drop it in the comments. Would they say, I feel unseen? Or I feel like I always have to be perfect? Or would they say, I just want to be loved for who I am? What would they say? I know my inner child tonight would say, I think it's time for you to rest. So, your turn. What would they say? Anyone? Don't be shy. I see some of you watching. If you feel comfortable, please feel free to share. I would love to hear from you. Okay? So, how does this affect yourself in adulthood, right? How is it that unhealed inner child wounds show up in adulthood? So, how do we know? Number one is self sabotage. And this is not in a particular order, but very likely you self sabotage. And I will expand a little bit further. When I talk about self sabotage, is perhaps you show up immediately for others, but violate your own boundaries and commitments. Hmm? Comment I in the comments, right? In the chat, let me know. You ever feel like you get close to success, you get like that anxiety that is good actually, because you're like, oh my gosh, I have a clear vision and I want to do this for myself. But then somehow you derail yourself. You engage in self sabotaging behaviors. All of a sudden, friends call, and instead of setting a boundary, kindly, assertively, you place all the attention on them, right? So your inner child may fear rejection for putting yourself out there unconsciously. And therefore, you're so used to that, maybe learned helplessness or being in the background, that you can gladly, okay, place the attention on something else or someone else. Does that resonate? So there is a fear of rejection, of failure, or even being seen. You may even feel uncomfortable when you receive a compliment. I know I used to, right? It's like, wow, you look so nice. Ah, thank you. I think this is not such a nice green on me, but I appreciate it. You're so kind. What about, oh, you look nice too, right? It's almost like, oh, the spotlight, not on me. And then, oh, such a classic one, people pleasing and fear of abandonment. That is a way that our inner child shows up often. So if you were conditioned to earn love through being the good girl, the good boy, like the good child, being pleasant, well behaved, or being quiet, right? Some people equate children, which I strongly disagree. There are no good and bad children, they're just misbehaved and well behaved children. But if that is the way that you were taught and conditioned to receive love, you had to earn it by being, well behaved and self-sacrificing, then you may find it hard to set boundaries. So let me check the comments. If anyone, oh, thank you. Hello, hello. Welcome to Tilda. Says hello from Brooklyn. It's wonderful to have you back. And we have Alondra. Hello, Alondra. My inner child would say it's okay to make mistakes. Beautiful. And I hope that you listen. Then Tilda says, my inner child will say, thank you for putting me first for a change. Yes, yes. Please keep putting your inner child at the forefront. Okay, so thank you. And you are relating. Thank you so much for sharing, because sometimes we're so conditioned to this that we don't even realize it, that we are doing it. And then we have emotional triggers, which we talked a lot about last week. Complex trauma, flashbacks, and emotional triggers, where small conflicts or changes feel huge, right? You get intensely upset or anxious when someone criticizes or rejects you, or you may get very defensive over that because the perfectionism may kick in, like, oh my God, now I'm being found out, or um, now how are they perceiving me? So we put unrealistic high standards on ourselves, and our inner child doesn't appreciate that. I mean, at the end of the day, ideally, we just want to embrace our perfect imperfection. So getting easily triggered emotionally can be a sign of a wounded inner child. Another hallmark is chronic shame, right? And self doubt. Feeling like you are never good enough. Feeling that no matter what you do, that voice might not be, you know, telling you directly like you're not good enough, but you just feel this uneasiness that I should be doing something. Like it's almost impossible to relax. So it might be the voice of a caregiver or parent or family member who once made you feel inadequate, or that if you were simply putting your feet up and watching TV, oh, it must feel good to be just sitting around, or told you that maybe you are lazy instead of being productive, right? So that is another sign. And then a fifth one, right? In the interest of time, I will leave it at that. But I do have um, a gift for all of you if you haven't downloaded it yet. So stay tuned towards the end. The last sign that I want to offer you tonight, in the interest of time, is struggling with joy or playfulness. Okay. If you were forced to grow up too fast, you might find it hard to let loose. You may take yourself very seriously, and you may find it hard to be spontaneous. You want things to be very matter of fact or in order, because chaos or unpredictability may trigger the earlier conditions that you experienced as a child or even as an adult. Okay. So, does any of this resonate? Let me know in the comments. Let me check which one stands out to you. Let me know, because then we are jumping into reparenting and healing strategies. Let me check. I see I. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing. And if you feel comfortable, of course, let me know which ones resonated the most. That would be helpful. And if you have any questions as well. So now that we understand some of the wounds, let's talk about healing your inner child and reparenting work that you can start today. Right? So the first strategy that I want to offer you is to speak to yourself like a loving parent. I understand that this may be hard at first, but many of us have a heightened inner critic that mimics the voices of past caregivers, or if you were bullied, if you were in an unhealthy relationship, instead of receiving affirmations, you were so used to being criticized that you have now internalized that. And ask yourself, what would my loving inner parent say? And when you feel anxious, instead of saying, why am I like this, right? Maybe you can say to yourself, well, it makes sense that I feel this way, but I am safe now. I am in the present. I am not helpless. I have choices now. Okay. The second strategy that I want to offer you is an inner child letter writing. Okay. This is the one of the most powerful ways that you can begin to acknowledge your inner child. So I would invite you to write a letter to your younger self. Maybe at 5 or 10, 15 years old. Maybe it could be 5 years ago, or, you know, a few years ago. Maybe you feel shame, or you feel embarrassed or guilty that you overstayed in a relationship, and maybe you know, fell into compromising situations because your self esteem was so low that you were not even honoring your dignity, your boundaries, and you feel ashamed because you should have known better. And I'm here to tell you, guess what? I'm not immune to this. No one is. We are perfectly imperfect. And it makes sense that out of low self esteem, out of being someone that does not or has not been conditioned to prioritize themselves from a young age, that you will violate your own boundaries. So I just want to offer that compassion to you. If you struggle with that, I want to offer that compassion to you tonight, because you deserve to be loved and to be cared for. And it's not fair for you to be so hard on yourself. Okay. And the third strategy is to create self compassion rituals. Okay. So if your childhood was filled with criticism, or you were constantly given messages like that you were invisible, basically, that your needs did not matter, I want you to replace that practice by just embracing daily self-compassion. Look in the mirror and say, you are worthy just as you are. If you feel awkward, because I understand it can feel awkward, like write it down. Okay, I'm looking at my board right here, my whiteboard. So I have messages. I don't know if you can all see it, but let me see. You see, dream big. Let your faith be bigger than your fear. You never fail until you stop crying. So, like, be bold. So I have different affirmations because I feel awkward. Like, you are worthy, but hey, I'm working on it. You see? I'm working on it even though I do this work. So I put it all around if I can. I write it on my planner. So those are ways that you can have these compassionate reminders to speak to yourself in a loving way. Okay. Number 4, right? I want to offer you to, or compassionately challenge you to reclaim playfulness and joy. Okay. Little secret I'm going to tell you. Sometimes I take my son to um, a trampoline park. And who will be the first one running around? Me. So right now, let's see if I have my little shoo-shoo train that I got for myself this past Christmas. I was like, you know what? I love trains, and I'm gonna get a choo-choo train, a tin can. It came in this tin can, and I love it. And if you saw me, you'll be like, what in the world is this 41-year-old woman doing? And I don't care. This is part of my embracing my inner child and reclaiming playfulness and joy. But that happens when you grow up too fast, right? So healing isn't just about addressing pain, it's also about embracing joy and playfulness. So let me check in with you in the comments before we go in a few minutes, and tell me, how does that sound? Would you be willing to embrace some playfulness? What are some things from the past, like that maybe you like to sing in front of a mirror? Maybe you like karaoke, or you pretended to be a journalist, a reporter, like I used to when I was little, and I used to sing. And honestly, the older I got, the more responsibilities that I felt, the more I lost, sight of that, the more I lost that sense of playfulness, and I started to take myself so seriously. So if you feel comfortable, let me know in the comments. I'm here waiting for you. Please don't be shy. Okay, what are some playful activities that you can embrace starting this week, or even maybe tonight? Who knows? Maybe you like to play with makeup, but in a playful way. You want to draw, you want to dance, right? Just do it, okay? We only live once. So, finally, I want to invite you to create an inner child dialogue, okay? So, when you feel emotionally reactive, triggered, pause and ask yourself, which part of me is feeling this? Imagine your younger self sitting in front of you, okay? Maybe put a chair in front of you. I know it may sound a bit awkward or silly, but it works. Put a chair in front of you and then ask them, like, what do you need? Or simply close your eyes and ask yourself, put your hand on your heart and just ask yourself, what do you need, inner child? Or what do I need? Is it comfort? Okay. Is it reassurance? Or do you need to let some anger out? Okay. So remind yourself that your inner child is safe. Okay. Healing is a practice, not a destination. It takes time. Okay. So each small act of kindness, compassion rewrites, rewires your brain and body for self worth and inner peace. So remember that it takes one day at a time, one interaction, one activity at a time. And let's see if any of you feel compelled to share what you are willing to do this week to nurture your inner child, because I would love to hear from you. Okay. So before we close, I want to invite you to take a deep breath with me. Okay. So if you feel comfortable, okay, you may close your eyes. I'm going to sit back and let's inhale in through your nose, expanding your belly. And it is okay if you don't know how, but don't monitor yourself, just do it. Okay, inhale through your nose. 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold it for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and slowly release as if you were blowing out a candle. Again, in through your nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. And slowly release with a prolonged. And tell your inner child, you are loved, you are cared for. I am here for you. Okay? So, what is one small step that you will take tonight, this week? Drop it in the comments. Okay, it could be something as simple as journaling, as speaking kindly to yourself, or like tapping yourself whenever you say, let's say, I'm so stupid. Like, I hope that you don't talk to yourself that way, but trust me, it's so common. Tap yourself and be like, I'm learning. Okay. But don't call yourself that. Okay. Remember, healing isn't about fixing yourself, it is about learning and reclaiming self love, safety, compassion, and belonging that was always meant for you. Okay. Because you're never broken. You were never broken. And if this resonated with you, okay, make sure that you are subscribed so that you do not miss any of our videos. I publish daily shorts and I publish long form videos weekly, and this live stream every Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay. And if you stay till the end, right? Ooh, I see some comments actually. Thank you so much. Tilda says, I dance and play with my kids and act silly. I love that. They love it and it brings me joy as well. Isn't that beautiful? Thank you so much for sharing, so Tilda. I am sure that they appreciate it and they can see you as someone they can trust and they can enjoy versus the grumpy, serious parent, right? So I am so happy that you share that. Okay. Any of you that is on the call that feels safe to share, please do. Okay. Your story could be someone else's inspiration and survival guide. So don't forget that, right? If you haven't, I want to offer you my Inner Child Reparenting Workbook. If you have not downloaded this workbook, I would highly suggest that you do to start delving deeper into this work of reparenting yourself. I want to share it with you. I noticed that on my StreamYard now I can share the screen, which I wasn't able to before. So let's see if I can do that. If you can all see it, let's see. I want to show you what it looks like. It's a Google Doc, and I purposely made it into something that is fillable so that it lives on your Google Drive. Comment I if you are able to see it. I hope you do. Okay. So in this workbook, you will find the definition of the inner child a bit more in depth, parentification, if you have been parentified, and the impact of growing up with emotionally unavailable parents in a dysfunctional family, and an exercise to understand your family dynamics further. You will also find an exercise to develop more self compassion, setting boundaries using my compassionate sandwich method, okay, which places the value of the relationship at the epicenter, right? And of course, if people keep violating your boundaries, then it may be time to say goodbye or to reevaluate and, ask for some distance, right? I invite you in this workbook to work on your mindset and self awareness before you start to set boundaries. I give you some of the verbiage, okay, in terms of body language, what to say, maintaining boundaries, and dealing with boundary violations. And I also offer you some case studies so that you can get a sense of or of knowing that you're not alone in this. This is very common. It's hard to set boundaries when you grow up too fast or without your needs being met. And you will find affirmations and a meditation to start reparenting your inner child. Okay, so going back, if you haven't downloaded it, I will drop it in the comments. I hope you find it helpful. And again, I hope to see you next week at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you so much for being here. I send you so much love, and please remember your resilience. Thanks for being here tonight. Goodbye, everyone.